Hello and welcome to the Interior Show with me, Aditi Singh. Well, everything that you build has a language of its own, a story to tell. And you, as makers, actually have the advantage of creating your own story. Well, that's a philosophy that comes straight from our designer guest for today, Dhaval and Ritu Malesa.
Hi, I'm Dhaval.
Hi, I'm Ritu.
We together started a studio called Soul. It's an architectural firm. We've named it Soul so that it's a search of urban language, where we're trying to refine the urban language of today's time and mold it into architecture that would define for much later in history what was 2012 and the era of the 2000 period about. We've been doing all kinds of design practices like architecture, interiors, could be product design.
The best part of working with him is he's very clear what he wants in terms of design.
She has a good sense of management skill. And somewhere where I go into my design mode and take my time, that's why she controls the project and doesn't let me go loose.
The best part of working in the profession is that it is very creative. It lets you explore a lot of options in terms of knowing the place or knowing the market.
It's always been my passion to be able to design, to look at something always the abstract side of it. That lets me explore the city, the world. I get to travel. So that's the beautiful part of it.
Dhaval and Ritu, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, I'd like to begin by saying that, you're firm believers of urban language. Could you elaborate on what it really means in terms of design?
Urban language is a language that we want to define that would define our spaces in times later. For the longest of times now, we have had a living bedroom kitchen, LBK. Is that any more working?
Okay.
Does our definition of the way we live within a family or in the nuclear families does still work with the idea of LBK? So we're looking at these new definitions that can define our spaces with the pattern that we're living in today.
Now, as we're speaking, we're sitting in this beautiful house of yours. Now, as a couple, when you set out to design this house, what were those basic factors that you kept in mind?
First thing was we didn't want to really think of typical things like overuse of materials or bedroom as bedroom or kitchen as kitchen. We wanted to combine spaces and make home house.
So if we had to get more specific in terms of space management, because I think that seems to be the highlight of this house, how did you go about planning it?
Planning is always the key word for any good design. We have an indirect entrance to the house, and let's keep that. We do not open the door into the living room. So there's a little passage where you have a waiting area, and then you walk your way into the larger space.
Now I can see that the living room is actually divided into two parts. So how did you go about that?
When you have conversations, you need to feel like a round table, and it's much more warm to have conversations that way. So we wanted to have a living room where everybody faces each other and has a conversation, and then there's a dining section. But at the same time, they too should also have a communication with the centerpiece of furniture that is between the dining and the living that we've tried to do. And in per se, the living room, I think we've done two segments, which is a very small informal segment of seating where you just listen to your music, or you're just two friends over a coffee. You don't want to occupy the whole of the sofa and
Got it.
you don't feel the comfortable, the cozy that
It's more personal.
It's more personal.
Now, going with the same idea, how have you designed the furniture of your living area?
So firstly, the living area had a formal sitting, and also in between it has a kind of sitting where the back pivots. So that can become a part of dining when needed, or it can become part of living when needed.
The dining table obviously serves as a dining table. Apart from that, there is a platform we created around it, from where you can put up your object or a lamp that just creates a yellow ambience for the dining. Or you could, if you have a dog, he could be on the platform and eating his meal while you are having your dinner. Or somebody who prefers sitting down on the floor and eating, the platform serves as a place where he could keep his plate and he could be sitting down.
So if one needs to get this done, for someone who's never tried this before and neither do they have any background of interiors, how can they go about doing this?
It could be easily done through carpenters, but just a little sense of detailing and proportions would be needed from somebody who is into this.
Now, moving on to the red cabinet that I've seen in the kitchen, it extends from the dining area into the kitchen. So, what is the idea behind that?
So the idea of using this red cabinet was to create some fresh mood in the kitchen rather than going for the neutral palette.
So the red we used is not a bold red, it's a translucent red.
Yeah.
You see through it. What happens is you want to see the objects you've kept in the kitchen at the eye, you want to pick them up right away. You don't want to search for it.
All right. And, coming back to this area, because right now I just noticed the gold inlay on the flooring. It's really interesting. I mean, how does this concept come about?
So the idea was that we have everything soft, matte in the house. We wanted it to be like a, like a river of gold. Okay. It's a brass inlay actually.
Okay.
It's brass sheets which are folded over wooden planks below it.
All right.
And inserted into the floor. We have a lot of humidity in the air, and so there's a lot of oxidization process that happens. So, but once in a week, what we do is we just clean it with pitambari.
Okay.
Or a brasso, which is it's just a
Yeah.
powder
Cleansing
chemical.
material.
Yeah, you just use a wet
Once a
napkin.
week.
Once a week.
All right. Now, moving to your bedroom, the flooring seems to be very interesting. So, how did that idea come about?
So we tried this cemented floor. So it's very soft. It feels very nice and it's very homely.
Yeah.
It's just one material spread over like a jam, and then it is just polished.
So, what is that material exactly?
It's cement. It's just pure, simple, plain cement.
And that's one kind of flooring that needs no maintenance.
Yeah, that needs no maintenance.
So it's quirky and yet you don't have to go ahead and
Yes.
maintain it. Now, moving further into your bedroom, there's a bathroom which is an open bathroom. It is quite a great space management tactic.
Yes, it was a space management tactic for us at least.
This room is a little smaller than the master bedroom, and we wanted to break open the idea of having separate bathroom and a bedroom. So we decided not to have the wall, and the interesting element is we put the wash basin outside the bathroom. And that served as a platform for a lot of other things also. It's not a typical basin with a counter.
Yeah.
There's a lamp kept and some nice objects. So it became part of the bedroom as well as the bathroom.
Let's talk about your reaction when you saw this house as a final product. What was the feeling like?
It was wow. Like we got it.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a beautiful feeling because we started from scratch how we wanted to build and how the process was, and finally what it came up to. So it was really, really nice.
Yeah. On that positive note, I would really like to thank you guys for having me over to this
Thank
lovely
you.
house
Thank you
of
so
yours.
much.
And after a short break, we're going to have a look at another house that you designed, of which positivity remains the core principle.
Surely, our pleasure to take you there and see what we've got to offer.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's time for a short break now, but coming up on the other side, designing a house that inspires positivity. All about that in just a bit.
It's artificial leather, which has just been paneled into horizontal bands of different sizes.
Yeah.
So it brings about a little rhythm, which continues into side storages.
Okay.
So we've done like a whole lot of storage around the bed actually, which you don't realize.
Yeah.
Which is like a frame, and the bed and the headboard is carved into it.
Welcome back, and we continue to be joined by the Malesa couple who brought us to this apartment in suburb that has been designed only by following one catchphrase: think positive. Well, tell me, Dhaval and Ritu, now that was the brief, right? More or less, the client wanted the house to radiate positivity. So how did you interpret that?
So the client is a very active social group, And what they meant by positivity also was that they have a lot of people who come to their house. So they needed a space that could accommodate that many people, make space for that many, and everybody feel at home and would enjoy the space.
So let's begin bit by bit talking about the design layout.
They wanted neutral palette, clean lines, like clean house, and it should look like big.
Okay.
That was their first.
All right. And why is it that you throughout the living area stuck to greys and all the neutral colors?
The neutral palette is because it leaves the flexibility to change your house in quicker intervals.
And also structurally, the living room has been divided into 3 sections based on functionality.
Right.
Could you sort of elaborate on that?
What the nice thing about the planning was that you enter the center of the living, so it really cuts the passage out. So then you have one section becoming the living part of your space.
Yeah.
The other side could become the dining. And then they also wanted a sort of a sacred corner in the house. So this is how we zoned out 3 spaces into one.
Yeah. And as we enter, I looked at the ceiling. I realized that you've created a distinction between the dining area and the living area by using a wooden ceiling.
I think the living room is more like it's a personal thing where people come and talk. It's more a cozy space. So there was a wooden ceiling given, whereas dining area was kept plain just to give a break. We didn't want to plan same thing here. It would be too repetitive and would divert attention.
Well, now let's talk about the sofa right behind me, specifically. One thing that I noticed was that it extends in an L shape, and one side of it is actually supported by a platform and the other has legs. So what is this combination like?
The whole wall behind it is a column, and to do any of your electrical wirings was not possible. We have done the paneling to conceal our wirings. Now that extends into a drawer of the platform. We wanted to integrate the platform and the sofa as a design. So that's how we sort of conceptualized the proportion of the platform intersecting with the wall, the sofa intersecting with the platform, and the whole thing looks as a product together.
Okay.
And also in the sofa, what we have done is we've divided it into 2 sort of colors, Yeah, so there is this whole white border frame around it with the armrest, and there is the grey. So the white is the artificial leather, it's the rexine, because that's easy to maintain. You keep your hands on it, you tend to your shoes tend to touch the base.
Yeah.
So that's very easy to maintain, even though it's white, because it's the artificial rexine. And the fabric, which is the seat, that is kept in fabric, so it doesn't generate heat and it's very comfortable for you to sit on it.
Yeah. And how about the curtains? I noticed that the color you chose was somewhere close to bronze. Right?
Yeah. Also, the nice thing about the metallic color is when you go for silver or bronze or metal is it also changes its nature with the light. So if you do have white lights on, it looks silver. If you do have yellow lights on, it will look a little champagne color. If you have total yellow bulb type of light, it will look like a light gold. So because of the self shine.
Yeah.
So that's the nice thing about the metallic color palette.
Now, on that note, I would really like to have a small tour of the house and try to understand that in depth how you've used the various design and color elements to actually suit the client's brief. So, Dhaval, will you take me around?
Yes, absolutely, sure.
Well, Dhaval, beautiful room, very colorful. I see a bright yellow suddenly after a lot of steel greys and bronze.
Right.
So, whose room is this?
This is a room of daughter and her grandmother.
Okay, now again, those are like different generations living in together. How have you tried to strike the aesthetic balance, keeping people of different age in mind?
Yes, that was a challenge. So we chose a wine color, a little more royal. At the same time, it's also a royal color which belonged to the generation of the grandmother.
True.
And similarly, and we went for a light veneer because the wine, again, being a strong color and a strong palette, we went for a lighter shade of the wood that we used. And to complement in the white, we went for a self-work white pattern panels.
Yeah. And what is the material that you've used here?
That's BPG in the local term. It's back painted glass.
And you've tried to maintain the same color combination on the curtains as well.
Yes.
You have white and then a bit of wine red underneath.
Yes, because they all have to complement each other as elements of the room.
Yeah. Well, now coming to the bed, I think it's really interesting. The headboard you've used is the focal point of the bedroom.
Yes.
What is the material that you've used here?
It's artificial leather, which has just been paneled into horizontal bands of different sizes.
Yeah.
So brings about a little rhythm. which continues into side storages.
Okay.
So we've done like a whole lot of storage around the bed actually, which you don't realize.
Yeah.
Which is like a frame, and the bed and the headboard is carved into it.
Okay.
Also, what happens is it's not the shelf which is seen from the outside directly. It's like from the side.
Yeah.
So you don't see the clutter in the room. At the
Okay.
same time, you've got a lot of storage.
Yeah, well, that's quite intelligent. And tell me about the choice of lights. It's, I think this definitely goes well with the daughter. I'm sure it must be done keeping her choice in mind.
Actually, it's both. The idea of exposed bulbs and having hanging chandeliers was always an ancient concept.
Yeah.
So it does go with the grandmother's time. At the same time, having a framework light, that's a very modern concept.
We've covered the daughter's room and the grandmother's. I'm wondering, what about the master bedroom?
When we came to the master bedroom, one, that it has the windows which is towards the rear side of the building.
Okay.
So that's very less sunlight that you get from that room. So it was comparatively a darker room compared to all other rooms.
Okay.
So that was a challenge as to how do we make that space brighter.
Okay. And which is why you stuck to white.
Yes. White, also that was a client's choice.
Okay.
That he wanted something white, but we made it a little more glossy white.
Okay.
So it reflects a lot of light. There's a lot of light bounce and brighten up the space.
And how about the bed? Because I've seen you really like to sort of make the headboard of the bed very king size, right?
So the headboard for the master bedroom was not just an independent headboard. It was a piece of storage.
With that, what do you think is up next for me to check out?
Oh, you should check out the son's room.
Let's go ahead. I see that, as compared to the rest of the house, this one is quite vibrant. You've used a lot of blues and reds.
So the brief that was given to us for the son's room was only that it has to have something in blue.
Okay.
So what we did is we tried to use white and blue as a combination for the room, as a theme.
You brought a bit of blue tinge through the curtains here.
Yes.
Right, you've kept it predominantly white and just a strip of blue underneath.
Blue. If you see the room around, I've already used a big patch of blue right in front of you. So to not have blue at eye level anymore, that was the reason.
Okay.
So it's all at the below level. It's in the bed sheet, which is again a level below your eyes. It's like the floor plan almost. You have the lower section of the curtain. So all at the lower level now.
Okay. And the headboard is very interesting. Firstly, starting with the first half of the headboard, I noticed that the motif that you've used here is similar to the one on the curtain.
Yes. So we had the idea of using a backlit laser cut work there.
Okay.
That was always there in the theme. So when we went for curtains, we said, why not do a laser cut fabric work in the curtain also.
Okay.
And continue that of the same height into the headboard. So first we found the design that is available in patchwork, and that design we transformed into the laser cut jali.
Okay. Dhaval, tell me about the structure of the bed. How did you go about planning the design of the bed?
Yeah, so one is that we didn't want to, have the feel of just a circulation space left around.
Okay.
So creating a platform on one side, brought that whole thing of having a step up.
Yeah.
It brings a little break in your movement.
Yeah.
And creates a rhythm.
Yeah.
And then we've inserted a light in it, because what happens is towards the night when you're sleeping, when all the lights are shut, just if you keep the bed light on, you also realize there's a step that you have to take. And secondly, it's a very dim ambient light, not coming onto your eyes or from anything anywhere. So we've used a wooden ceiling, and then we've also used a fan which sort of complements to it. So it's got the texture and the little design which has the same wooden texture in it.
Yeah, it does. Well, Dhaval, thank you so much for taking me around this beautiful house. And, I would like to say that the way you have balanced the different generations living in this house, keeping their personality and taste in mind, is commendable.
Thank you.
And on that note, we'll take a short break. But right after that, we're going to talk about using eco-friendly materials. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Sure.
Keep it simple yet elegant. Well, that seems to be the mantra for the Malesas. With that, it's time for another short break on the show. But coming up on the other side, how to incorporate natural materials while designing your house. That's up next in just a bit.
What you could do is do a vertical garden, or play with lights, from ceiling and from the floor, washing the column.
Yeah.
She could also do a kind of a China mosaic work and make it an artwork.
Welcome back. You're still watching The Interior Show. Eco-friendly has been a buzzword for those in the world of design and construction for almost a decade now. But what does it really mean to your house? And is it very cost effective? Well, Dhaval and Ritu are all set to answer those questions. So, when we talk about eco-friendly, I think the best way possible to get this in a house is by using natural materials. So what are the kind of materials that one can actually use?
There has been a lot of natural material palette available for interior use, right from your floorings, which is Italian floors, to marbles, to granites, to quartz, now which are the materials to use, which is out of the marble dust. For your walls, you've got eco-friendly paints nowadays. You've got wallpapers and laminates that are with natural bamboo finish, cork finishes, which is again a waste material. So you've got all these options.
What is the easiest way to incorporate natural materials?
I think you can use a lot of, like how he said, cork sheets and all. They are now a lot in trend to use on cupboards or wall treatment. Or you can see in this house, the outside, the entrance lobby is cladded with cork sheet. So you can use such materials inside as well as in the lobby of the house.
Okay.
Also, bamboo chicks, they are great as barriers in the house.
Yeah.
So such small elements can definitely be used in a house where the house is actually already built.
Now it's time for us to address all the queries that have been sent in to us this week. So Dhaval and Ritu, let's start with the first question. The first query is from Mandira. She writes in to us mentioning about the existence of a column on her terrace cum balcony. How can she make this column part of her decor?
What she could do is do a vertical garden, or play with lights from ceiling and from the floor, washing the column.
Yeah.
She could also do a kind of a China mosaic work and make it an artwork, like a lot of cafes do nowadays.
Yeah. Okay.
That could be an interesting element to see from the room.
Yeah, make it into a sculpture.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, now let's move to Arpit's query. He's written to us on Facebook mentioning he has shifted into a rented studio apartment. He does not have space for a wardrobe. How can he do that?
He could make his bed part of the wardrobe. So during the day, it is his wardrobe with storage inside. And when nights he wants to sleep, that same thing could turn and become bed for him.
Yeah.
And some part of the portion could be used for keeping his blankets or whatever he needs in the night handy. So it could be combined with a wardrobe and a bed.
So with that solution, how much do you think Arpit has to shell out from his pocket?
It would cost around
45,000, 50,000 approximately.
Now Juhi says, I have a beautiful garden where I have a wooden pergola, but the wood is not in a good shape. How can I retain the wood? If not, then what are my durable material options for a pergola?
Firstly, if the wooden pergola has rotten or given up because of the termite problem, get rid of the wood right away. Well, if it's not that, if it's because of the heavy rains, or is it the rains or the water that's causing the damage, make sure when you buy the new wood, it's the old BTC or Burma teak, because that's a seasoned wood that's available. So then if it's in the exterior, nothing happens to it. If she doesn't want to go for wood, her other option is for a wood like or for a wood look, could be going for Shera planks. It's basically cement sheets. It's fiber cement sheets, but nothing happens to it in the weather. They come in grey color, and then you have to get it painted with the wooden color palette.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the last query of the day. Janak says that the walls of his living room are beige in color, and the walls of the dining space is turquoise blue in color. What are the various options available to him when it comes to dining table?
If he prefers to have a studio look to his house, he could go for colorful chairs.
You also, what you could do is, if you want to go really arty and funky, you get a lot of junk, in the chor bazaars, in the that kind of a market. You could just use nice bases, like you get, a peti, a nice old peti that has good carvings on it, some funky drawers or drawers on it, and just put a glass top over it.
That's a good idea. With that, thank you so much for answering all those questions, and thank you so much for spending the last half hour with me. I have to say that I had quite a soulful experience looking at your design elements and understanding your design sensibilities. It's been a pleasure to have you both.
Thank you so much, Aditi.
Thank you.
That was quite an enlightening conversation with Dhaval and Ritu Malesa. That's all we have for you on the show today, but I'll be back next week, same time, with yet another engaging episode of The Interior Show. Until then, goodbye and keep watching Magicbricks Now.